Welcome back to Sparks and Spatter podcast. In this episode, I'm sitting down with someone who's been a part of my welding journey for a long time. Ferris State Welding Engineering Technology grad and my former student, Jordan Hasbrouck. Jordan's path is one of those stories that reminds you how far welding can take you. He got his start at Ferris in welding, moved into the automotive sector, and today he's a licensed arborist and a business owner who still uses his engineering mindset every time he climbs a tree. This episode was also our test run. We tested cameras, mics, lighting, seating, the whole setup. So if things look or sound a little rough around the edges, just know that we're dialing it in and every episode should get better from here on out. What really matters is the conversation. And we talked about how Jordan got his start, his educational journey, his experiences as a welding engineer, and now kind of where he's at today as a business owner in a completely different field. The skills that you learn can follow you into unexpected places. Let's get into it.
And yeah, then we're kind of hanging out here. So welcome to the Sparks and Spatter podcast. I don't know if you're aware, but welding can be a pathway into many different avenues and many different careers. And we're sitting down today with Jordan Hasbrouck, who started out his career as a professional welding engineer, and he's ended up a little ways away, but not too far. So welcome to the podcast today.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you.
Yeah. So yeah, I got an interesting story on how I ended up where I'm at. Now I own a tree service. I'm ISA certified arborist. But I will say that my background from Ferris and some of those classes were pretty influential on me starting my own business. So, and I actually got into climbing because of Ferris and them having they had that rock wall. So that's how I got into climbing. And then, Evan Schroeder, who is one of your former students too, asked me when I was a senior if I'd ever thought about climbing trees, and that kind of kicked off the whole tree thing. But you want me to start at the beginning, right? So background on me, growing up.
Yeah, where are you from?
I'm from Heartland, Michigan.
Heartland.
So Southeast Michigan.
Yeah.
Went to Heartland High School. Was pretty good at school growing up. Graduated with above a 4.0. Was real good at taking tests and doing the classes and everything.
Math, science,
all of it.
Yeah.
Writing, I was actually really good with the English classes. That was probably my forte, actually. Which actually has paid off pretty big, dealing with some of the stuff we deal with now in the trees.
So did you do any welding in high school?
Not really. I was in the automotive classes in high school, junior and senior year.
Okay.
And I got into welding. I welded in one of your other former students' garages, Lucas Knebel, I believe his last name is. I've known him for a long time, and welded in his garage one time and thought it was pretty cool. And out of high school, I went to military college, actually. So I did a semester at military college because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in the Marines initially.
Thinking Marines, I got it. Okay, good.
And didn't really like doing ROTC so much. I just wanted to enlist. And so I came home and went to enlist. And when I went through MEPS, they found that I had high frequency hearing loss. So apparently I'm deaf. I'm not, but I actually can't hear high frequency stuff very well. So after that, I was working at the golf course in town, doing greenskeeping and stuff, which I actually really enjoyed. It was probably the most fun job I ever had in my life. And it was super enjoyable and it was pretty chill. Working outside every day was nice.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I ended up. That's part of why I ended up back what I'm doing now. But Lucas was a when he was a freshman at Ferris, he kind of started telling me about it because he was like, "Hey man, what are you doing? Like, do you got any plans?" I was like, "Well, I know I can go to college and do well. Not so sure I want to do that, but like if I'm going to go to college, I want to go and know it's going to be something that's good and that like I'll for sure get a job with my degree." And
that's big.
So we'll get into that with Professor Cook doing all his like research and data with like former students.
Yep.
So Lucas was like, "Well, you should check out weld engineering because that's what I'm doing." And I was like, "Okay." So looked into it, and you guys had published, or wherever I saw it, that it was like a 98% job placement after graduating with like some pretty good starting numbers, like higher than that. I want to say it was like 5 to 10 grand higher than the average engineer starting out. So I was like, well, this is interesting. Plus it was really niche, So anything that's super niche like that, there's not many schools doing it. Generally, you're probably going to be pretty well off. And so it's a 1 year wait list. So I had to wait another year to get in. And then I ended up in how did that work out? When I went there, it was, when was my freshman year? Gosh, 2014 maybe.
I'm thinking fall of 14 is when I first saw your name.
So what also happened was I was on the wait list for that year, and I don't remember who I talked to. It might have been, so it was Professor Cook. Professor Hardesty, I believe, was the director.
Yeah, program coordinator at that time. Yep.
At the time. And he told me, well, you're on the wait list. Come start pre-welding. So I would have been a 5-year student.
Yep.
On the way to Ferris, he called me and was like, "Hey, we had someone drop. You're in now." And so I had to completely redo my whole schedule and everything and go buy a bunch of weld gear from like Menards and whatever that was in Big Rapids, and
because you were
had
totally
to do all that the weekend before,
not planning to go to welding class at all
that year. No. So I basically got in a year earlier than I was supposed to.
Yeah.
Which was nice.
Right. Help control some of the costs. I mean, adding a fifth year
would have been, I think at the time it was like $22,000 a year.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
With like housing and everything, like all of it. That's what it was. So ended up as a freshman, had garage welding experience, and that was it. And so basically no welding experience.
Right.
Showed up first day of class, and that, what was it, Weld 111? Who was my professor for that? It was, you mentioned him a minute ago.
You probably had, did you have Carney for the lecture? And then
Carney for lecture, and
Kelly Cushway.
Yes.
Taught with us for a time there.
So one of the first things he asked was, who's got prior weld experience and like, career center stuff? Like most all of the people in the program did that in high school. I didn't. So me and Jake Peterson raised our hands. We had no weld experience prior. And he's like, "Okay, well, I'll like help you guys out a little bit more and everything." And it was pretty rough starting out because I'd never stick welded or what is it?
Oxy
shielded metal arc welding. Right? I remember some of it. It's been a while, but so we started out with stick welding on, I don't know, 1/4 inch plate, doing 2F.
Yeah,
right?
T's and
2F,
laps
all that.
and
That was pretty rough to start with stick welding for sure. So, worked out though.
Yeah.
I remember. So I got to mention Danny Williamson too. See, I remember like it was probably second week of school maybe. Did one of my welds and carried it over to before we had them checked to get them graded, we like ran them on that wire wheel to clean them up real good. I walked over to it and there was a little bit of a line. It was, I want to say Zach Horton was standing there too, but 19-year-old Danny Williamson, and I'm 22 years old. So at that point in time, it's like all these 19-year-olds, they were kids to me. And he turns and he looks at it and he's like, what the F is that? And I was like, who are you? I was like, who's this kid think he is? I got so mad, but I held it together and I was like, oh, like blew it off kind of deal. But ended up really good friends with him.
I was going to say,
the first thing he ever said to me.
My second semester, you guys were all hanging out.
Yep. So
that's good.
Yeah, that was something else. But so loved freshman year. It was pretty fun. All the welding classes were pretty informative freshman year. I learned a lot, obviously.
Soaked it up like a sponge.
Yeah. It was a little tough for me just because I didn't have the prior weld experience, but was it second semester we got into TIG welding and stuff?
Yeah.
I love that. That was when you were teaching that class, and that was all TIG welding, wasn't it?
And we did some MIG in there too because we had to.
Mm-hmm. So I really loved TIG welding. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I picked that up pretty quick. TIG welding and stainless was probably my favorite.
Yep.
My other favorite, actually, surprisingly, was torch brazing. I really liked.
Did you?
Too. Yep. As far as the hands-on stuff. I like picked that up really for whatever it was. I mean, it's like pretty similar to like TIG welding, right? So
yeah, but it's so tricky because you got to be so good with that
mm-hmm.
controlling the heat, and if you overheat it, you're screwed.
Yep.
So that's cool, meticulous.
Mm-hmm. So also what I really enjoyed about being at Ferris too was, like we were talking about earlier, like I got into the steelhead and salmon fishing right away. And that was all new to me because I'm from the east side and never really didn't really know anybody that went and did it. And so I was like, well, it's the weekend. I like fishing. Let's go try and figure out steelhead and salmon fishing. And so freshman year, didn't really hang out with too many people because I didn't know anybody really. I knew Lucas, but our schedules weren't always aligned and stuff. So we hung out quite a bit, but if it was a Saturday morning, I was driving to the river.
Yeah.
So
what was your go-to spot? I don't know if we're allowed to say that, but
we can. I don't really go to it anymore, but the PM, up in Ball, the flies only section in PM, was a pretty good spot for me. Caught a lot more trout than salmon and steelhead, but I was there just to fish. So caught some nice ones. One of the first fish I caught out of that river was a 20-inch brown. And I thought it was a salmon, because it was fighting so hard. It was pull and drag on my 8-weight and stuff for 5 or 6 seconds. I was like, oh my gosh, I got a big salmon on. And then it stopped and came right in, So that was cool.
That is cool. Yeah. Some nice browns in that
mm-hmm.
river.
Also freshman year, kind of second semester, found out, started hanging out with the class more, Danny and Zach and all them, Tom Vaughn, we talked about. A lot of those kids were into dirt bikes. And I loved riding dirt bikes, right? So going into sophomore year, my sophomore year, Lucas was a senior. We got a house on that lake that's south of town.
Rogers Pond?
The reservoir, Rogers Pond. So we were on Rogers Pond, literally a lake house. Everybody rode dirt bikes. And
you'd grown up riding dirt bikes?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm. So when me and Lucas moved in on Rogers Pond in that house, there was a shed, and we put 6 bikes in it. Oh, we're going. So we put 6 bikes in this shed at the house on Rogers Pond. Everyone kept their bikes there, and we had a little trailer, and all the time we just load the bikes up, go ride, or we'd load the bikes up and then go to class. And I would literally park my truck with 2 bikes in the bed and 3 bikes on the trailer. and we'd go to class. And then from class, we would jump in my truck and go riding on the trails around here and stuff. Rode Everett a lot, which is, right over there.
Yeah. Lots of good trails.
Yep. Everett and Little O, places like that. Rode like 3 days a week, maybe, probably at least, when the weather was nice. So rode in the winter a couple of times too.
Did you?
We had a couple of warm days in the winter. Yep. We went and rode. Yeah. So sophomore year, lived with Lucas. So that was cool living with a senior. That was, it was nice because I got to see what he was up to and like what they had to deal with. So I knew going into junior and senior year exactly what to expect, and so I had the short end of the stick when it came to the manual welding, but for everything else, I kind of knew what was coming, so that helped a lot. It was pretty nice to have that, and have him. He was kind of like a student mentor. You know what I mean?
Right.
So maybe that's something they could. I don't know. We haven't talked at all about what they're up to at Ferris. I don't know if you wanted to talk about that at all, but we'll get through the school first and we can talk about that, because I have like critiques on like maybe you should have a student mentor program a little bit, which would be hard to do because when you're a freshman, sophomore, like the junior, seniors kind of like clearly don't really want to talk to you.
You're an underclass. Yeah, who are you?
You're an underclassman, and it's just like all the old guys in the industry, like the dude that's been welding or doing whatever, like robots. I dealt with robots and stuff a lot, like the old robot techs and stuff. Like I've been doing this 30 years, and like you gotta run through the ringer before you get my respect, kind of deal, right? But
yes,
so
hard to break the ice.
It is. But we'll talk about that with my internship at Chrysler.
Yeah.
So sophomore year, that was kind of when I figured out that probably halfway through the first semester, I was like starting to get the second thoughts of like, I don't know if this is for me, but like, not that I don't enjoy it, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, welding is my passion. It was like a career is all, like, that's all it kind of basically became for me. And which then I kind of like, I guess I would say I stopped trying as hard. And Professor Murray, who taught our sophomore, so was it all the sophomore classes?
Yeah.
Like all the lab and like the two, did we have 2 weld classes sophomore first semester?
NDT and Fab.
Yep. And he taught them both, right?
Yeah.
So
double secret overload.
He told me at the end of that semester that he thought I was going to be one of his best students, like because of the way I started the year out. And then he's like, I don't know what happened to you. And I like didn't want to say nothing, like, like, oh man, I'm like not so sure about this anymore. I almost finished out sophomore year and like just did the 2-year and just left. I was that close for a while, super close. But then I was like, well, like I got to finish the 4 years because I'm here and I already like planned on it. So I'll finish the 4 years and like get an engineering job and go from there. Right.
Yep.
And so the cool thing about the whole, you get into weld engineering, well, there's so many other things you can do. Like you can, especially since like after I graduated and got into it and started working, that you could end up as like, I've got buddies that are project managers, I got buddies that are salesmen. Zach is a teacher. You can go absolutely anywhere, especially after you get, like everybody wants that dream job right out of college too, right? I know, like I kind of had that feeling too, but it's almost better in my opinion, but it's just because of what I did, to go see a whole bunch of stuff, like go like try a few different things and see what part of the industry you like or like where you would fit in and go that route. You know what I mean?
Yeah, try some different stuff and find your passion.
Yep.
Or at least figure out what you don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I actually ended up really liking automation. It was a lot of fun, you know, really interesting, completely like, it wasn't just welding. It was like, okay, we got to deal with like robot cycle times and movement. And like when we got into, I was doing a ton of robot programming. It's like, okay, we're dealing with like robot zones now and things like that. And like I told you already, saw all sorts of different stuff, which we'll get into. So it was pretty.
Yeah. Did you dive into robotics and automation at your internship? You talked a little bit about your internship at Chrysler.
Yep. Okay. So
how'd you land that?
We're perfect segue here.
Did you know somebody there?
I didn't. No. So going through sophomore year, like pretty much everybody at Ferris, which is in the weld program, which is almost unheard of, I think, in other programs, like anywhere. A lot of people got sophomore internships.
Right.
So
did you get one? Your sophomore year?
I got one. Yeah. I went and interviewed with Chrysler, and they had me as what was the name for it? We were basically like a summer fill-in for the
vacations and stuff?
The maintenance supervisors is what they called it. And so the maintenance supervisors were, you had like on the production floor at Chrysler, you had all the robot lines. So I was at the Warren truck plant, the assembly plant. So, or the stamping plant actually. And they did like part assembly there too. Oh. So they had the press lines, they had 25 of them maybe. And then they had the assembly side of the press plant. And that was where they were building some of the they were doing like the body stuff. So like the hoods, some of the doors, tailgates, stuff like that. And
so you're working with sheet metal right away.
Yep. So it wasn't really like a welding internship though. It was more of like a kind of a management internship. So what they had us doing was like assisting the supervisors that supervised the maintenance guys on the floor. And those guys were the guys that would keep these lines running, or like if something broke, they would fix it. But they would, like, we would have a guy on each line that was running every night. I was on second shift, right? So you were in charge of making sure those guys were where they needed to be. And there was also the production supervisors, and we had to kind of work directly with them. Like, hey, we're running this line until halfway through the shift, and then that production crew is going over to this line. So make sure your maintenance guy is going over there, like when it's time. And if you didn't tell them to do it, they wouldn't go do it, you know, like out of the gate. Right. So like what was cool was that I think we had 3 or 4 production supervisors that were like full-time employees, right? That one of them was from Ferris, but he did like manufacturing engineering or something like that. He was probably 40 or so. He had a really good relationship with those guys on the floor, right? And so this is where I kind of learned, like, okay, you have to have a good relationship with the people that you're in charge of, I guess you would say. Otherwise, like, they're not going to respect you, and they'll like give you a hard time no matter what. So I learned from, oh man, what was his name? I forgot his name. So that production supervisor, he wouldn't sit in his office or his desk. He would go out there and he'd just talk to all the guys all night long. Like, so when I like shadowed him, he was just going, making rounds, like talking to whoever, talking about whatever these guys like found interesting kind of deal, or like, you know, have something to say, whatever. They were just shooting the shit basically all night long. right?
Yep.
And if something happened, okay, I got to go deal with this, whatever, So when they basically halfway through summer, they gave us like, I think there was like 20 dudes out there or so. And they were all older guys. Like the youngest ones were probably 40. A couple of them were retired maintenance guys from GM and Ford, and they were working full time at Chrysler now. So they'd been around. They'd seen everything. They knew, because they sat on those lines all night long, every day. They knew what was going on with them. So we're not there to tell them how to do their job. And I learned that pretty quick. You told those guys like, hey, you need to fix this way. Like if you said something like that to them, they would just lose it.
Yeah.
And we didn't need to. Like,
yeah. You trusted your people. They knew their job. They were trained in whatever they needed to be. And you just had to tell them, hey, I need you to do that. And they would take
there, like when they're running production, basically.
Yeah.
And then there was more to it than that, a little bit. We had like some responsibilities aside from that. I mean, that was like 10 years ago. That was a long time ago.
Was there 3 of you that went down there for that, or a couple of you that were in that position?
3 of us, yeah. I think Erin Walensky, I believe is her last name. I'm pretty she was there. There might have been 4 of us.
Yep. Watson?
Yeah.
I remember Watson talking about that too.
Yep. He was down there. He was on my shift with me. And then I want to say there was one more that went down there. I don't remember who it was though.
It might have been on a different shift.
No, it was 3 of us, and it was a kid from Purdue, I believe, or some university like that.
They had a big engineering program too.
Big engineering program. Super smart kid. I think he was in mechanical engineering. He was on the production side, so that was cool. Like there was nights where like the 2 of the supervisors would be on vacation, and it was just some kids kind of, I wouldn't say running the show, but like we were working together to deal with everything. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot of responsibility for a sophomore in college.
Mm-hmm.
You were a little older because you took more of
23.
a non-traditional route, so you were the senior person on the job.
Yep, in a way.
So you went from going early on, you were going to go in the military, things didn't work out, so you shifted, pivoted, ended up at Ferris, and now here you are supervising production of people twice your age.
Yeah, well, supervising like the maintenance side of things, people twice my age for sure, at least. A lot of them were really cool guys, though. Like, after you kind of got to know them, they were a little bit standoffish at first, which makes sense because, you're some 20-something-year-old kid coming in, and you're technically their boss, I guess you'd say. And so, but what was nice about it and what worked well, in my opinion, the way they ran that style of, like, management is, so those guys were all union employees. We were the first line of non-union. Like, we were basically the buffer between them and management, right? So, and the reason they liked bringing kids from the weld engineering program in is because, we're usually hands-on type people.
Exactly.
But we also could deal with the professional side of, like, management and all of them. So, and a lot of times, like, the management people, like, they were never hands-on type people. They were, like, white collar their whole life, basically. So, like, dealing with these blue collar guys is a little bit different, Yeah.
And some of them probably didn't do it very well.
No.
No.
And, that was pretty obvious. Like, there was clearly people they didn't respect that were, they answered to a little bit. And so, like, I basically became friends with all those guys out on the floor. And, a lot of them were into dirt bikes, a lot of them were into fishing, a lot of them were into hunting, stuff like that. Right?
Yep.
So
lots of
you got there and talk to them like, hey, man, how's it going today? And like, oh, this production supervisor came by and just pissed me right off. Like, you know, so you listen to him playing for a little bit, and yeah, man, well, like, I'll see what I can do about it, talk to him, and like
try to have their back.
There was one time where I straight up told a production supervisor, like, don't mess with my guys. And I did it right in front of them. And they were like pretty appreciative of that.
Yeah.
Even though it was really not my place to do, but like somebody had to.
You stood up and did what was, so many places now there's nobody to do that.
No. So, and that was like my first taste of being in like leadership, which now I own a company and I'm responsible for the livelihoods of 4 other people now, 4. Yeah. So you kind of
you got a team of your own to look out for, and you got customers to make sure you're making happy. So, wow.
So that was after sophomore year in the summer, and then came back for junior year. And junior year, man, that was what did we do junior year? Junior year was like, I think junior year was the most fun year.
Was it? Because it's the toughest
I just
year.
remember riding dirt bikes a lot and fishing a lot. I didn't think it was the toughest year. I thought senior year was.
It's all about priorities, then, right?
Senior year we had the senior project, and that was just
that's tough.
Yeah. Junior year though.
You guys would have had advanced automation. I know.
That was So that was
design a weld like Weld 312 maybe. Was that
like that,
design of weldments maybe?
Yep, I believe so. But.
So that was 412.
But so junior year we started on the robots that year.
Yeah.
And it was cool to see. So all summer I like dealt with robots all summer, right? We were running all Fanics and Fanics. They had some ABBs and stuff like that.
Depending on what line you were on.
Yep. So they were pretty dialed in though, so it was never really any big issues because they'd been running those lines for 20 years, you know, and they, like I said, they would just retool them every couple of years for the new models, you know. So it was cool to see like some of the things that got dealt with in automation going into automation in like our classes junior year.
And the tables had turned because you came into the welding program with garage experience, little experience, felt behind. Mm-hmm. By spring semester, TIG-MIG, you were starting to feel like you were catching up.
Yep.
And now by junior year, you've already done automation before you went to class.
Yeah, did automation before I went to class, and I had lived with someone who was an upperclassman while I was an underclassman. So I kind of like...
You saw what was coming and were more prepared. That's interesting to see how that flips.
Yeah.
You know?
And so junior year, I did actually pretty good. From what I remember, like dealing with the robots, like that stuff was all pretty easy, you know, like, and nowadays, if I had to weld something, I would prefer if you had like a little robot this big right here and you're like, hey, we need to like fab up this whole thing. I would spend all my time like making a fixture and getting it ready and then programming the robot and weld the whole thing because I know it would turn out better than if I tried to hand weld it.
Yeah.
And I'd probably do it faster. So
it's about using the tools.
Yeah. So automation class of weld design junior year, went to Gestamp in South Carolina for my internship, for my junior year internship. That was actually our internship that I guess mattered.
Yeah, counted for the
required one.
Yep, for the curriculum.
That's where I got into a whole lot of different, like, you know, we talked about in class, it was all like a lot of fab and weld design and like hands-on welding, manual welding, you know what I mean? A little bit of like semi-automated welding, right? Isn't that like, so like we were running the pipe welder thing like that. This Buggo or something like that.
You see, there was a CRC Evans.
Orbital
system, and side beams. You guys had a side beam to run, I think, with a TIG seamer on it.
Yeah, and then we did some sub arc.
Yep.
And stuff. So when I went down to Gestamp in South Carolina, that's BMW country down there, right? So there's a gigantic BMW campus down there with like 20 buildings on it or something. And then all the suppliers down there are supplying to BMW. And then there's a Volvo campus down in Charleston, South Carolina, I believe is where it was. And so everything, we were like 50-50 on the Volvo parts and the BMW parts at the main production plant for Gestamp. And then they were building a BMW laser welding plant, right? It was strictly laser welding. And they put me with he was a contract weld engineer who was going to be in charge of dealing with all the laser welding at that new plant for Gestamp. His name was Ed Weipert. He graduated from Ferris too.
Another grad, yep.
Yep, worked for R&E. They put me with him, which maybe was their mistake because they wanted me to hire on afterwards. And like, because I worked with an R&E guy all summer, like I literally worked with him pretty much every day. I probably annoyed him because all I did was follow him around, and like, I know I did, but you know, whatever. So
it's better than not being able to find your intern.
Yeah.
Right? Or he's sleeping in the robot cell, not you.
So, but it was really cool because when I got there, they were finishing that plant, right? Building the actual building. They were finishing it up, and they were starting to, they had the floor marked out where they were going to start bolting robots down. They started doing it while I was there, and they finished the one line before I left. And so they had like a test cell set up, and so what they were doing at that plant was tactile. It was called tactile laser welding, with a ScanSonic AL03 head and on a KUKA robot. And so they were wire feed laser welding aluminum, like 1.2 millimeter aluminum, you know, and it was stamped, which stamping aluminum is a little bit difficult, from my understanding.
Due to ripping and tearing, or?
Yeah, like you would get like cracks in the stamp, like in the radiuses of the bends sometimes would just straight up split. So that's why it was difficult. But I mean, they did it.
Yep.
BMW, you know, they're wild. They do some crazy stuff.
They would try to figure it out.
It was insane to see a plant that there was going to be 30 or 40 like laser welding heads in it, and I had never talked to anybody that had done it. Everybody, like, what I remember when I was like freshman, sophomore, junior, leading up to that, the whole craze was like laser welding, right?
Yeah.
It was like, oh, we want to get in a laser welding place and this and that, and like it's really cool, and all the like, it's like top of the line, like top tier, like weld engineers were doing laser welding.
Those are the gigs to have.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I just kind of felt like locked in. Nobody really wanted that internship for some reason. They came up, and I was one of the few people that interviewed, and nobody wanted to go to South Carolina for whatever reason. I had a lot of fun down there. So I brought my mountain bike, and I brought my fly fishing gear. And on the weekends, I would, like, they had, like, the mountains were 45 minutes away. So I would go hiking, mountain biking, and fly fishing all the time.
Just out exploring, checking things out.
Yeah.
That's
cool. It was fun.
Yeah.
Like, it was a cool place to be for an internship. And, but back to the laser welding, it was insane to me to see that. And then, like, Ed had me kind of run that test cell a few times, you know, and like program out. Like they had this little fixture in there. You could like set up a lap joint, you know. So you just throw two pieces of aluminum in there, clamp it down, and you had to program it every time because it didn't have like they just had random cutouts of aluminum. So you had to program it for every single one. And so that's when I kind of started learning the KUKAs, like moving around and, you know, doing all that and dealing with stuff that went wrong with the ScanSonic head. It's pretty interesting. So that was a cool internship for sure.
Yeah, you were a Gestapo employee, but working with a contractor who was in charge of setting up those things from an R&E perspective.
And they did that because it was not a typical 9-to-5 job at that point. Like Ed was there 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, dealing with that.
Yeah,
and no salary employee wants to do that.
Right.
So
right. In that condition, or in that situation, you're getting paid hourly for the time you put in, as opposed to the salary guy who already feels like he's overworked.
Yeah,
the salary person.
So there's salary guys that were engineers there. They were starting in that second build for the other BMW parts and then the Volvo stuff. That was an addition onto their main plant too. So those guys were all tied up in that. So they just brought Ed in as a contractor to deal with the laser welding stuff. And that was also where BMW sent over their laser welding guru. His name was Johannes. And I told him he took, I think the flash drive he gave me had like 3,000 pictures on it.
Wow.
Of one line.
He was very thorough.
Yeah, he was. And the fixtures were nuts. Like I told you already, for those laser welding cells, because it was not a fixed fixture. It was a tool on a robot that like suction cupped the inner and outer part of the door up out of a load station that an operator loaded the two parts in, and it suction cupped it up and swung it into the laser welding cell, and it was on an airlock, so it would set it down in there, and all the clamps, like the seam clamps basically is what they were, I don't remember the right term for it, would like clamp down, and then the robot would let go of it and go out of the cell
and leave the tool.
Yeah. And that base would clamp the robot tool down, and then the door would close or spin in, or however they had it. They had both. And then the laser robots would just go to town on it, you know? And then when it was done, it would spin back out or open the door up, and the robot would go back in, hook back up to the tool, and you'd have a full door come out. So that was pretty cool. That was like, some of the tooling they had was insane, like absolutely insane. It was not like what we dealt with at Ferris. Like, did not prepare me for that
no,
at all.
Right.
But you can't unless you would have to have a wicked budget to deal with that stuff, you know.
Yep.
So
$1 million tools that have different moving parts and wow. Yeah.
Those ScanSonic heads, I want to say they were like over $100,000 a piece, I think. So
serious.
Yeah, serious. And then to keep it running, you needed air and gas. They were running a gas with it too, I believe, but it was mostly it wasn't really for shielding, I don't think. It was to like keep the dust out.
Oh,
something like that. But it was crazy because they were doing like 1 millimeter like lap welds, you know, tiny little welds. And whereas at Ferris, you know, we're doing like the smallest weld we're doing is like TIG welding, I guess, like a 1/8 inch weld.
Which seems huge.
Yeah, like thought that was small, and then we go to 1 mil legs on aluminum, you know what I mean? That was crazy.
Yeah. There were some tight welds.
Yep.
Tight welds.
Mm-hmm. Towards the end of that internship, that was when Ed started kind of, hey, like, are you going to like take a job here? Because they're probably going to offer you a job, you know, to come back to after you graduate. I was like, well, I don't know. I kind of want to be in Michigan. And that's when he started talking about, well, he asked, do you know what you want to do as far as like for a job, like for a welding engineering job goes, like what industry you want to be, stuff like that. If you wanted to like specialize in something kind of deal. And I was like, well, I don't really know. He's like, well, if you work at R&E, you'll see everything. Like you have the possibility of going into like these crazy heavy fab shops and stuff like that. Like it wasn't as prevalent working at R&E, I guess, but some guys went and did it. But you'd see, if you were going to go automotive, which can be a really good thing. I mean, you can end up in some pretty not so fun plants, I guess you'd say. But you like, he told me, he's like, you'll see a lot, you'll work with a lot of different like robots and different processes and all sorts of stuff, and like you'll end up finding some spot you want to be. So okay. So told Gaston no, and they asked me if I wanted to hire on, and they asked me why, and I was like, I don't want to live down here, which like now I would definitely live down there. It's a cool place.
Hard to picture though when you're from Southeast Michigan. Am I going to relocate to South Carolina?
When you've never really lived anywhere else, which when I was in military college, I was in Vermont for a couple months. That was cool.
Yeah.
But I didn't really get to go around much, I was on campus the whole time pretty much. But so came back for senior year. Senior year was kind of in a way, it felt more like just got to get through this year, you know what I mean? Like, cause I was kind of like, oh man, I just got to get this over with so I can just get a job and whatever.
And you knew you could
that was sort of my mindset going into senior year, which kind of sucked. But some people were all like super excited for the senior project. No, I wasn't. I did not want anything to do with it. I was like, this is like, I get the idea. I get what is trying to be taught, but I just want to be done.
And you know what your job's going to be when you leave.
Kind of, yeah. After 2 internships, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. You had a good idea.
Yeah. So, so senior year, we didn't do bridges. We did those like boxes. That was like we torsion tested them, I believe is what we did. And we did it with that. What the heck plate was that? It was that weathering steel.
Yep.
I forget what steel it was.
Probably
some sort of weathering steel.
They called it, 588 or 636 core 10.
Yeah.
Kind of a steel. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so I wasn't as much into we had touched on like some of the CAD drawing stuff and like 3D, all that. I wasn't really super into it. And that was a huge part of that project.
Because it was all documentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Documentation and stuff like that. But I mean, it was, I guess at the end of the day, it was cool to do. But yeah, so senior year classes, we had some more automation stuff. The absolute best class, in my opinion, that I got the most out of at Ferris was the engineering economics class.
Isn't that something?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
That's one of my favorite classes.
So my whole entire like cost of going to Ferris was I don't know, $80,000 or something like that. That one class was worth $80,000 in my opinion.
Phenomenal.
Because what happened in that class was Professor Cook went over so much stuff that was relevant to life in general. So before that class, I had no clue anything about stock market investing, stuff like that. No clue about really planning a project. And so we went over a lot of that stuff, and we had done the cost analysis or whatever, weld cost stuff.
Yeah.
But that class brought it all around full circle into here's how you deal with the cost and profit margin on a project, right? And so you're buying your equipment, you're dealing with your labor, you're dealing with your consumables, everything else, and then at the end of it, that spreadsheet we built in that class spit out a number for what your parts had to sell for, to make money on the project with resell of the equipment and stuff after the project's over and all that. And I base my entire business that I have now off of that spreadsheet.
That's fantastic.
Yep. So I have a remade version of that spreadsheet with like the 1, 2, 3 year, no, it was the cost down to the day and down to the hour and down to the minute of like what it cost me to run my business. And I haven't really messed with it in a while, but that's how I started.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now we kind of deal with that with QuickBooks a lot more, because like you can do a lot with QuickBooks. It's pretty cool. But and there's a whole bunch of other CRMs out there that you deal with. But that class was worth all my time at Ferris.
That's
in my opinion.
Yeah.
One of the best classes there, or that I got the most out of personally. It was crazy because it like clicked in my, like a light bulb went on. I was like, I could start my own business. Like literally, like I looked at that spreadsheet and I'm like, you could do anything with this.
Exactly.
Like any business you want to run, like sure, cost per part you can change to cost per project. You can cost per, like, you sell TIG torches, correct? So like cost per TIG torch, like you probably doing something very similar, right?
Yep.
So you get that one little tiny number matters more than anything else you do. Like in a way, it matters more than anything. That's how you start your business, is with that little number. And you have to get it. Otherwise you run a willy-nilly business and you don't know what you're doing. And like, that's how business fails. They don't know their numbers, right?
Yep.
So, that class was great. And then he also went over, he did like a whole budget for us too. Like, hey, when you graduate, you're going to start out at 73 grand a year. You're going to have like this cost, is like living expenses, and you're going to go out and you're probably going to go, like I told you guys not to, but I know you're going to go buy a brand new truck, and here's how much it's going to cost. And like, let's say you don't, and you get something that's a little cheaper. Like he went over all that, right? And went over like how like 401ks and stuff work, things like that. And before that, I had like no clue. Like I didn't know. Like we don't learn that in high school.
No, right.
We should.
And you hadn't had a job with retirement and benefits like that.
Never
so it was all brand new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was really good to have that. Like I wish we would have had that freshman year, honestly, or like a intro version of that. Like sure, it wouldn't have all tied in at the end with like what we did before with like job costs and everything, but that would have been I wish I'd have had that class when I was 18 years old.
The good concept.
Yeah. So yeah, senior year, the senior project was, that was interesting. It was kind of tough, but that's like, I don't want to say it was a waste of time, but for what I ended up doing, going and working at R&E, like none of that like transferred into working at R&E and being out in the field, in my opinion, because, well, I guess the teamwork aspect a little bit, but that's not like when I got out and went into working for R&E, like we didn't really deal with that side of things, like the actual project planning and stuff like that, like a little bit here and there, but like I was never in charge of like, hey, we're doing this integration project, here's our timeline. They would just tell us what our timeline was, like, hey, you guys have got 3 days to get all this done. Like, okay, no problem.
And they did all that background figuring out stuff.
Yeah, and I'll touch on that when we get to actually working on R&E.
Yeah.
But so went through senior year, getting to the end of the year, people are starting to get jobs and stuff, you know, like sign for companies and stuff. And I had done a couple interviews and like didn't really do that great, you know, because my heart wasn't like super into it. And at that point too is when I told you before we started recording.
Yeah.
So Evan Schroeder got me into the tree climbing, because one thing I did at Ferris, I went to the rock wall like every day, because Ferris had a really nice rock climbing wall.
Yep.
So I was there all the time. And I know like freshman year I was there 4 days a week, every week. So
that's a good workout.
Yeah.
You know?
So I got really good at rock climbing, and then met Evan my junior year when he was a freshman, because we both did CrossFit too. And I met him at the gym like the weekend before school started, I believe is what it was. And he didn't have a ride back to his dorm, and the dorm was like 2 miles away from the gym. And when I did the class that day, it was my first day there, and Evan was like, "Oh, like I'm in welding too," because we were talking to everybody there, and it's like, "Oh, that's cool. Like I'm a junior in welding this year," and he didn't have a ride back, and he was like walking back, right? And so when I pulled out of the parking lot, I seen him walking. I'm like, "Dude, what are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm walking back to the dorm." I was like, "You need a ride?"
Yeah, right.
And he's one of my best friends now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But anyway, so senior year, this was like halfway through senior year. He's like, "You ever thought about being an arborist?" It's like, "What's that?" And he was like, "Climbing trees." I'm like, didn't even know that was a thing. And so he had tree climbing gear, and we literally went out in the woods one day and shot a rope up into a tree, and I climbed a tree, and I was like, wow, that was really easy, and it was kind of cool. Like, I kind of want to, like, maybe one day get into this, which is a wicked, like, side shot off of the welding path, right? The engineering path. So,
but I'm hearing a theme. You like to be outside,
yeah,
and be doing stuff. So it kind of fits where you are now. So yeah, that's neat.
I'm, like pretty physically active person. So it like now mostly because of climbing. So it kind of just like works for my brain. Like being in a plant all day long, every single day, kind of like put a hurting on my brain, I guess you'd say, if that makes sense.
Yeah, wore you down.
Yeah, because it's like a little bit mundane. So
right, which some people love.
Yeah,
some people like that consistency, but you're more of an adventure guy.
Yeah,
you want to go out
like adrenaline.
Where's today going to take us?
Yeah. And I'm like adrenaline addiction's a real thing. I have that. Riding dirt bikes and all that stuff. And I grew up like skiing too.
Downhill,
downhill. I mean, I can water ski too and wakeboard, all that, and like all the extreme sports stuff was like big part of my life growing up. So, going into engineering was really like maybe not the best idea because I kind of need the adrenaline every day, if that makes sense. So the doing tree stuff definitely helps that out a lot. But so back to getting a job after senior year. So Ed reached out to me again and asked, "Hey, have you got a job yet? Do you know where you're going?" And I was like, "No, not really." And he's like, "Hey, like I told you, like if you work at R&E, you'll see a lot of stuff and you'll go to a whole bunch of different plants, and like then you'll kind of be able to pick a path better, or like you'll find a plant that you really like being at," which ended up being true. Or you'll see a whole bunch that you don't want to be at. And most of the time, we'd get job offers. As long as you were like did what you were supposed to do when you went there, you would get a job offer before you left. So I got job offers from every plant I was in.
They tried to coach you.
Cool. Yeah, they did. And like that, like I already knew that. They didn't care so much, Yep. So they just expected that to happen. And he also was like, "Hey, you can work a ton of hours and you'll make a ton of money, and like you'll be able to like save a bunch, and then like when you want to slow down and work a 40-hour-a-week job, like you'll have a big nest egg or like a big down payment for a house, and you'll be set.
And you'll have a ton of experience in different areas that will add to your value. So somebody's going to love to when you settle down. Yeah.
So he was like, I was like, okay, that's probably like, yeah, sure. He's like, all right, well, I'm going to call, oh man, forgot his name. I got the phone call and they were like, "Hey, so you want to work at R&E?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like, "When are we doing an interview?" And the guy literally said, "Well, we're just going to send you the onboarding paperwork." Ed says you're a good dude. Like he wants you back down there with him. So like if Ed wants you, then we're gonna hire you.
You're hired. Your interview's over. Your interview was the last summer.
Yeah, pretty much. So I was like, okay, sounds good. And another month or two of senior year and dealing with the rest of the senior project, and then got requested back down to Gestamp, which was funny because I told them I didn't want to work there.
and you end up back there.
Yep. So I end up back down at Gestamp, but this time Ed wanted me to come help him, I guess, or they wanted me to help Ed, however that worked out.
And that was in the new facility where they were installing the new line.
Yep.
Okay.
But
so that's what you think you're going to do.
Yeah. By that time, all the lines are up and running pretty much. And they're like starting to dial everything in.
Yep.
So go down there, and they were finishing that new build on the new addition of the old plant, and they needed a ton of help up there because I can't remember exactly, but it was something to do with the integrator, like started the build and then they had to switch integrator. Something weird like that happened.
That's never a good thing.
No. And so it was a giant mess.
Yeah.
And they basically needed bodies,
Right.
And
people who
we
had
all sorts of random stuff we had to do. Like I was not just doing weld engineering things, right? It was like it started out kind of like that. And at that point, Logan Smalley was down there, and Wade Stevenson, and excuse me, Leonard Smith was down there. So 3 Ferris grads, like recent Ferris grads. And then they had the R&E spot welding guru guy, Bill Thornton, Wild Bill is what we call him. He had a pretty short fuse. Super awesome guy. Super now, like I didn't know there was that much to know about spot welding because it seems really basic.
Yep.
But it's not.
Right.
And
once you start to get complicated,
like if you are super into something like that,
yeah,
like you can end up as, some contract house's guy for spot welding, and you will get requested everywhere and you will be working constantly.
Yep.
Like it will never end.
It's a weird niche, isn't it?
It is.
Because it's not a lot of people want to go into it. It's not that glamorous.
No, it's
but
not.
If you know your shit,
you're
going to be busy.
Yeah. And that dude and Bosch were like the Bosch spot welding like controller.
Yep.
The software, that was like an extension of him. It was crazy. He knew it so well. I've never seen someone that was that good with it.
It's fun to work with people who are really good at their job too, isn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
He made spot welding fun, which was like, I didn't really like it, but he did. He made it fun. And so he was there. So started out helping them with getting some of the welding stuff going, and then they kind of realized that sorry that I could do some robot stuff, like reprogram robots and all that, at least off the pennant.
Yeah.
And like, hey Jordan, can you go over there and help them like mess with all these robots and get them whatever, like do some touch up stuff, like run some parts through this line and like touch everything up. Like, yeah, sure. And then they got to the point where like we were getting everything finished up and they were like, okay, well, we're going to probably be making some cuts, because they had like 15 guys there that were R&E guys. Like, we're going to keep a few of you, but not all of you. Like, all right. And like part of what helped me stay was just being willing to go do things that weren't just welding.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And like held the PLC guys out a little bit here and there, like with if they needed something done with a robot, like just sure, I'll go help you, and like taking an interest in controls in general helped a lot too. So they ended up keeping me and a couple other people. And that one turned into basically support is what they called it. So like we were just keeping the lines running basically and like making improvements here and there. And those lines were like super jacked up, you know, like a lot of the the logic, so the PLC was like not right, and a lot of the robot zones and everything weren't right. So the line would run for, you know, a couple weeks, and then out of nowhere, two robots would just collide.
For no apparent reason.
Yeah, and I found one time while I was running a part through to get like, I had to run through, touch up all the welds one night, and I found this collision spot because I was like running the robots in auto really slow, one at a time, you know? So all the robots, I would put all the robots at 0% speed. And then to get them to where I needed it to go, instead of just like driving the robot down in, because we had to like keep the sequence going down the line. And then the part had to go to the next fixture, you know? So I was just like, had all the robots stopped, and each time I needed the part moved, I would just like bump the speed up on that robot until I needed where I needed to be, stop it, open the cell, go in with the pennant and run it in manual mode, like the rest of the way through the program to get it to where I needed to be. I found a spot where there was a collision, and like didn't think it, like at that point I still didn't really understand the robot zones that well, and because they're kind of imaginary. They're not actually like a hard line that's programmed into the robot. It's just like an imaginary zone, basically. I don't know. Like, it's a hard thing to explain for me. Maybe I still don't understand it all the way. But so they would hit these. So in the program, it would hit like a zone 2 or zone 5, whatever, stop. And if another robot was in there doing its thing, before this robot could go in, this robot had to be out so this robot could clear to go in and do its thing, right? Weld or glue, whatever it had to do. Put a part in there. I was running the one robot in, and I had the robot stopped at its like pounce position, and ran this robot in, and it was like clear as day. Like I ran it in until it was like half an inch away. I'm like, so like this could crash, you know? I was like, well, maybe it was just the way I did it. I don't know. But the way that line ran, that robot never really stopped there. So it was always like out of the way. And said something to the like lead robot guy, like robot engineer guy or something. He's like, oh no, it's fine. Like we went through and checked them all. Like, okay, didn't think anything of it. Like 2 months later, that robot stopped there, and because it had some fault, you know, that stopped the robot, and the other robot came in, and it had just moved enough, like where it was sitting, and there was no zone check on that robot, so it came in and just smashed it, and it took like 16 hours to get it fixed.
Wow. And so it was a good collision.
And they were running production at that point. So it like really jacked it up, you know, like demolished the tool that the robot had and stuff. And yeah, it was bad. But I don't know, what can you do?
Well, right. And so as a new person on the job who gets handed this bag of, we won't call it shit, but it's someone else's problem. Here, make this work.
Yep.
And you're like, hey, I think I found a problem, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But this seems that it could be an issue. Now you know it's an issue, right?
Yeah.
And
we found out.
Sometimes when you check above you, they just want to, just keep her going. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, and that was a big issue on that project too, because they were it was 6 months behind schedule also. So everybody's like, oh, well, this needs to get done as fast as it can. We need to be running parts and everything else.
If it wasn't crashing, they weren't going to just investigate.
Right.
And that by rights.
Happened a couple times too. Like there was some pretty catastrophic crashes. And one time, one of the tools, like the way it was designed, it was, I don't remember it picked up a hood, one of those BMW hoods. It like fell off the robot because of the way it was built. It couldn't handle the cyclic loading, you know?
Yeah.
And it was just moving all over all the time because it's a big, huge like tool that picked the hood up. you know, so it had a whole bunch of weight out on the end, like just bouncing all the time. So that was another thing that happened too. That was cool, I guess. I wasn't there when it happened, but I saw pictures of it.
The size of some of that tooling to me
Impressive.
was amazing, especially when you had tools with multiple pieces that would move, and then you got a robot sometimes picking that whole thing up.
Yeah.
You know, other times not, they're fixed, but I was impressed to see some of the stuff that's going on.
But so with being down there at the BMW supplier and BMW, so what, like BMW was like heavily involved with their builds and stuff, like on their robot lines, you know, and even while production was running, they'd stop in, you know, so that was pretty crazy to see, because up here that doesn't really happen as much, like in Ford, Chrysler, GM. So BMW is pretty into their manufacturing, you know, like they're not like, hey, we build this super nice luxury car, but we have this super nice luxury manufacturing,
right?
So, which was really cool to see. And they were doing some pretty wild stuff, like some of their like joining processes were insane. So I don't know how many other people saw it, but so like we talked about those Scansonic AL03 heads, they were running those, and not many people were doing that, and they were welding aluminum with lasers. I got to see, so the one Volvo line was doing the remote laser welding with that Blackbird head, and so that was all. It wasn't lap joints. It was like, I don't know what you call it when it's like two pieces together and you weld through it.
Oh yeah. So normally it would be some type of a flange weld, but you guys weren't even edge welding it. You were welding through the thickness.
So this is apart and the table's apart. The laser would weld through the whole thing to join it, right? And it was with a remote laser welding is what it was called, and it was this head that, like, let's say the door was this table, it would like parts would go in the fixture would spin into the laser cell. The robot would come in with the head, and it would be like 18 inches off the part, and it would just move across the part like this. And there's two mirrors in there that would like direct the beam, that like they kind of moved like this, you know, and it would weld like a pretty wide section, like 20 welds across. So it would hit a weld here, 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 all the way across it. And it did it in like 5 seconds. Maybe.
It never moved the head. It just moved the stuff.
The head itself just floated across it like that.
And the mirrors moved.
And the mirrors moved and like moved the beam.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
I didn't really deal with programming that much. Like did a little bit of parameter change type stuff with it on the software, but we never really messed with like the robot path or anything like that. I think Wade ended up doing quite a bit of stuff with it initially, but they had it pretty much set up when I got there. That was like the first thing they did on that line.
Oh yeah.
So, but it was really cool to see. And then they did, like I told you about the clinching, like the clinch guns. So like overlapped aluminum, and instead of spot welding it, they were clinching it.
Which is a mechanical fasten.
Yep. It's a mechanical fasten with no fastener added.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't remember the actual clinch gun manufacturer name, but they're the big yellow ones with like a green cylinder or something on them like that. But it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by that. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
it's hard to resistance weld aluminum, right?
I think so. Yeah,
and maybe
because of the oxidization on the aluminum, like it's hard to burn through that.
Really hard on your electrodes.
Mm-hmm. I think there's places that do it.
Yeah, and geometry might have been an issue with how they were assembling that. It was designed.
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But
When you have lasers in your back pocket, you know, you tend to
lasers and clinch guns and stuff like that. Like they were clinching the reinforcements on the hood, like on the inner part of the hood. That's what they were doing with it. And
super reliable.
That ran better than anything else we had. So
cool.
That ran better than spot welding.
Wow.
And spot welding is pretty robust.
Right? Yep. It's force fit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like every once in a while, something would get missed, you know, and you're scrapping a hood, but it's like, okay, if something's not right on this, like you either wipe the little like die out because there's debris in it or something, or like you're swapping the punch. That's pretty much it. And you didn't have to do it very much.
Yep.
So,
and you could instantly tell if something was worn or out of spec.
Pretty quick, yeah.
The thing would fall apart when
not
you
like
pull it out of the fixture.
It wasn't like with the spot welding they were doing there. A lot of times it was through glue, you know. So they'd glue the part and then put the two pieces together, and you weld it right on that glue seam. So you're like with the that was all the steel stuff, like the what do you call it? The galvanized. They also had like the self-piercing rivet guns there.
Oh.
So on the Volvo line, they were doing the self-piercing rivets. They were riveting the wheel, like the shock tower. So it was a cast aluminum shock tower, riveting it to like basically it was like a unibody car, right? But part of that like structural part of the unibody, it was boron steel, and they were riveting through the boron into the aluminum.
It's amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
And some of it was going through glue too.
No kidding.
Yeah. So that was pretty wild. No, all of it was.
So
the whole path of the rivet gun was all through the glue.
All through glue. So you had a ton of adhesives being used in all these areas.
And like I didn't really ever get into like why we're using this adhesive here, or like because we had a couple different kinds, right?
Sure. Sure.
And we were also doing like robot hemming. So we had the hemming robots running on the one Volvo door. So that was another thing that was like, I wasn't directly responsible for it, but it was like part of what we had to deal with.
Yeah, in the whole wheelhouse of kicking out a part.
Yeah. Just in that one plant, I saw so much, you know, like, because we also had a MIG welding cell that was doing the bumper, and that was interesting. It was kind of the worst cell there because the parts were so inconsistent. Like I told you, we'd have like a 1/4 inch gap sometimes on 1.5 millimeter material.
Yeah.
So you're putting in a like 3/8 inch weld on, you know, 1.2 galvanized, and that stuff is like prone to getting blowouts.
Anyways,
you know, burn through
even with good fit up.
Yeah, with good fit up, it's still an issue. And so that was fun to deal with. And there was never really a fix when I actually left that place, there was never a fix for it. It was just like, well, if the parts are bad, and we just like they had a repair welder that would come in, you know, and just fix welds all the time.
Yeah, and to us, we're taught to eliminate those. Mm-hmm. So that's something like that's a loss we never forget.
But how do you eliminate that when they've ordered their parts and signed a contract with this parts supplier because they weren't in-house,
and they told them they were good?
Yeah,
your parts are good.
Okay, they have a 3-year contract with this company and like can't back out now.
Yeah,
so you just repair weld everything.
Yep.
Right.
And the whole the voodoo of robotics is we reteach every point every time.
Yeah,
because we can't hold anything consistent.
We had to mess with that cell a lot of reteach, because you get a giant batch of parts and they were all off. You run a whole shift that was off. It's like, okay, well, let's reteach this. And you run it. You know, you get through that giant batch of parts, and then a new batch of parts would come in that was
off in a different way.
Shift it back the other way, 3 millimeters or whatever, and get your good welds again. And like, so I got pretty good at dealing with like touching up MIG welds on robots, you know.
And throw everything you ever learned about MIG welding out the window, right?
Pretty much.
Because that thing had to be welded specially.
Yeah, it did. It was not like, oh, bury the wire in the root, you know, because if you did that, then you'd blow it out. So if you were like offset 2 millimeters from the root, you wouldn't blow out, and you would get like when we do the cross section, it would pass, right?
Yep.
So
because I mean it's paper thin, and you're playing with weird angles.
Yeah, it was some weird angles. Yeah, that was a fun one to deal with. But so I was there at Gestamp the first time around. I was there twice, and then also for my internship, right?
Yeah.
So the first time around, I was there for like a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. And then they were pretty much running production. Like, I wouldn't say without issues, but they didn't really need us anymore, so they sent us home. And then after that, I got put on that Kamau project at the Mack assembly plant for Chrysler. It was the Jeep Grand Cherokee XL, and then the Wagoneer, and it was all body in white. So that job, that was a brand new build too, and they like completely redid that plant because I think it sat for like 20 years.
Oh,
so they had a picture of it in one of the offices, and the parking lot had like 10-foot tall trees in it, in the middle of the parking lot, like growing all over the place, right?
Wow.
Like all overgrown, gnarly looking. And so they redid the whole plant, like everything, like all the like parking lots, everything all got redone. And so basically walked into a brand new plant, which was nice, you know. It was like pretty much everything I did was in a brand new plant, which was cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or a brand new section of a plant, right?
Yep.
So that job, we had 300 spot welding robots, and then maybe 20 glue robots that we were responsible for. That project was not fun. That was one where the people working there, like, nobody was in a good mood ever.
Different culture from what the Stomp and the BMW supply chain was like.
Down south, like, everybody was pretty happy for the most part, you know. Nobody was ever like always in a bad mood for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody was in a bad mood, it was because like something happened, kind of deal.
Yeah.
You know?
You could tell.
Yeah. But at that project at the Mack plant, every single day I'd go in and everybody was just angry, you know. And I didn't really understand that. But
no, and that's a tough culture to work in.
Yeah, it was.
Yep.
And I worked with the weld guys were all pretty cool. We were all contractors. All of the weld guys I worked with were contractors, and then there was one guy that was a Kamau employee that was like in charge of all the weld engineering stuff there. He was pretty cool to deal with too. Like, he was always in a good mood, but everyone else wasn't. It was weird. Yeah. But so I worked with oh man, I forgot his name too. Larry, he went to Ferris, I believe. He was the guy that I worked with directly. I'll get his last name here.
Weld guy?
Yep. He went to Ferris. He graduated. Larry Kajowski.
Okay.
He graduated like quite a few years ahead of me, though. We did a lot of like, that project was just getting going. So the one thing we had to do was mark every single wall on an entire like finished like basically the whole like body of the car. So to mark 3,000 welds over the course of a week, like using a CAD drawing of it and doing the measurements like off of body lines and everything else to get exactly where the welds needed to be.
Yep.
And then ran it through the line with 300 spot welding robots and checked every location and had to do touch-ups on everything. And it took forever. And that was like melted my brain.
All to verify those welds are where they say they're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, it had to be done, but it was not fun. So I had done it before on smaller pieces, you know, like 3 foot, 4 foot, whatever. Like run it through. There's maybe 20 welds you got to check.
Yeah, and
like,
a fender.
Yeah, a fender, or like that wheelhouse is what it was called for Volvo that had the rivets on it. Also had a bunch of like tabs that got welded on. So I had like 30 or 40 welds on those, nothing crazy. You know, if we had to like, sure, it took a long time to run everything through, but not like running a whole body and white line. You know, that was.
And they're trying to do big panels.
Yeah.
Like the whole side of this vehicle.
Yeah, the whole side, the whole bottom, like top, everything. So it was like really slow process. And getting it through the line was a giant pain in the butt. We had to have like 3 or 4 robot techs helping us because like, sure, we could run the robots, but like not as good as them. And there was just so much that needed to happen. You know, we were running like 4, 5, 6 robots in at a time in each station. So, and checking them all. So it took a long time. And those were the Kamau robots that we were using. And the actual like design of the software on the pennant, the way it looked, I liked. But those robots were not like, I did not like them.
As user friendly?
Yeah. They were user friendly, but they weren't like accurate, you know? And they were just like clunky feeling, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas like the Kukas, I really like Kukas. Like Fanics are okay, but I'm a big fan of the Kukas. And they're like, those Kukas just run so good. And they're just so, I mean, I was used to them, but everything was pretty user friendly on the Kukas and it all just made sense. Fanic was a little bit, I don't know if I used any like, we did use a couple of brand new Fanics at that. They had a laser brazing line there also. And we had to do some stuff with those robots. And that whole line was Fanics. So it was like 20 or 30 Fanics in there. And they were all brand new, but the software was like, it was like really old looking, you know? And it didn't make as much sense to me as like how a Kuka is set up as far as like going through all the menus and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, and they had weird names for like stuff. I don't remember any like specific examples, but, so when I was on that project also is when I was like, okay, like I'm going to start a business.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so we opened up the business, like got our LLC and got insurance and everything. And I knew I wanted to do tree stuff at that point.
Side gig.
Yeah, at that point it was just going to be a side gig thing.
Yep.
And we were like going to do like, we had kind of a background in like lawn fertilizing.
Yeah.
Like in grass too, from working at the golf course.
Right. You said your brother was the greenskeeper still?
He was the superintendent at that point at the golf course.
Yep. Yep.
I believe it was when that, yeah. So we're like, well, you know, we can do lawn stuff too for people, you know?
Yep.
Stuff like that. So I went out and spent a bunch of money on, like I got a side-by-side and a spray rig for it. So we could like spray lawns and stuff. And I had just paid off my student loan, which that was one of the biggest pros of working at R&E. It was like you work as like I was hourly, but worked a ton. like 90-hour weeks. Right?
Yep. Yeah.
Made a bunch of money, paid my student loan off really fast. I think I paid it off in 1 year.
That's phenomenal.
So $80,000 in 1 year.
And that's some weight off your shoulders too.
And still saved money.
It's lived and ate and
yep.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So phone call. So opened up the LLC and spent some money, spent most of what I had and was like, well, I'll just make it back in another like month or two. It's no big deal.
I'm making bank.
And 2 weeks later, COVID hit.
Ooh.
And they sent us all home, right? So
Yeah.
they shut everything down. Like, all right, everybody go home. And the con of working at R&E was that I was hourly, so when I wasn't working, I wasn't getting paid.
Right.
And so that's kind of how the whole tree service got kicked off, was because I wasn't I was still an R&E employee, but I wasn't working. So I was like, well, I guess we'll try and do this. And I had bought climbing gear and I had moved into my older brother's basement, right? Because I was like, well, it's a temporary thing, whatever.
Sure.
And I hadn't bought a house or anything yet, because I'm on the road 24/7.
Yeah.
So
why pay rent on someplace you never see?
So moved into my brother's basement, and my younger brother moved in too. And that was super fun, actually.
Was that? Yeah.
Because I have a pretty good relationship with both my brothers. And so we just had a whole bunch of fun, and
absolutely.
Drank way too many beers.
Right.
But rode pit bikes every day. We were having bonfires and stuff all the time. The neighbors were all really cool and had side by sides and stuff. And the power lines were right there. So we were always up and down the power lines every day. But so we did our first tree job a month or two later, and it went okay, but we did it with a landscape trailer and a truck,
Right. Bare bones got out there to do it.
And wheelbarrows. So that was terrible. But then we were like, well, let's do it again. So wasn't really we did a couple landscape jobs and stuff too that summer, easy stuff, mulch, things like that. Nothing crazy, but I was like, well, I don't know if this is do I really want to get into this, And
is it sustainable?
And and wasn't very good at climbing trees at that point and didn't have anyone to teach me. So I was doing I literally watched so many YouTube videos working at R&E on tree climbing.
Yeah.
So that's how I literally YouTube University. That's how I learned how to climb trees initially. And so that summer went by, and in the middle of summer, actually, R&E had me go do a job at UTEC in Sterling Heights, which is Southeast Michigan.
Yep.
And that was the fender rails for the Bronco Sport. The Bronco Sport fender rail, that's what I did.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's a hot new product.
Well, yeah, now I guess. A lot of Bronco Sports on the road. But so, before they, when there was the murmurs, that was when the people were Bronco Sport, they knew it was coming out, but I hadn't really seen one yet. And that's when, middle of summer, R&E said, hey, UTEC needs a weld engineer. I was like, okay. So I went to UTEC, and that project, UTEC was an integrator that was building that line for, I'm pretty sure it was Midway Products. I want to say that's the name of that supplier. So they don't have, at that point in time, they were a newer integrator, they didn't have an in-house weld engineer. So I got brought in for that. 20 or 30 MIG welds on that part, some spot welds. So the spot welding, their guys knew spot welding pretty well. and had the spot welding pretty much set up. And Lincoln came in because they were running Lincoln power sources and set up the initial welding on like all the MIG welding on those fender rails. But they needed me to help them deal with passing the Ford weld spec. And they also were pretty far off their cycle time that they wanted to hit. So they had me come in. Initially it was supposed to be 2 weeks, and they kept me on for a third. Or just kind of like third week, I just like hung out and made sure they all kind of understood what was going on. And if they needed help with something, I helped them, right?
Yeah.
But they just had me come on a third week just to kind of hang out. But so the biggest issue on that one, obviously, cycle time. We had that thing burning, man. So I had the robot travel speed maxed out. Had the wire feed maxed out on the machine, and I really wish I'd have been able to get like 50 more inches a minute of wire feed.
But it just wouldn't give it to you.
But no, 600 is all you can do on them Lincolns. Apparently, I don't know why they don't go up to 1,000. That'd be sick. But so we shaved a ton of time off.
Speeding up the robots and dumping as much wire in as you can.
Speeding everything up, dumping wire. They had issues with like blowout too, and obviously the heat input equation that we learned, isn't it? It's divided by travel speed, right?
Yes.
Or time, right?
Yep.
So if you want to not have blowouts and everything, just speed up. Simple, like you can turn the wire and the voltage up like hardcore, and it has nowhere near the effect that your travel speed will.
Yep.
So that's an easy way to get rid of like blowouts and stuff too on galvanized. Just speed it up, like go faster. And so we did that, and that was a really cool one. Like nice short little project kind of deal. It wasn't like too much of a headache, and everything's brand new again. That was one of my favorite things doing integration was just everything's just brand new,
Yep.
for the most part. And worked with 2 other older Ferris grads on that project. Like again, like Ferris grads are pretty,
popping up everywhere.
Yeah. They were like in their 40s. So they had gone through the program in the 90s, and and so I wish I remembered their names because you might have known them, but they were Midway Products employees, so they were basically who we were doing the build for, and like. I've heard of nightmare stories of the customer being a pain in the butt to deal with, and those guys, like the project manager was a pain in the butt to deal with, but the actual like weld engineer, and then he had a robot guy with him. Those guys were cool.
Yeah,
they were like fun to deal with.
Yeah,
like fun to work with, and if I had an issue, they were like. They weren't supposed to like touch anything, but like they gave me like, hey, like this at the end of the day, it was their line, right?
Yep.
Like,
right.
So, hey, what do you guys think I should do here? Like, what are you going to be doing? Like once this gets bolted down to your floor, like, what are you going to want? And they like, that was a cool one to be part of. So that finished up and then couple more tree jobs the rest of summer, nothing crazy. Ended up actually doing a tree job for the robot engineer at UTEC. Did a job for him, and they, at that point, at the end of that job, they asked me to go back down to South Carolina.
Oh, yeah. And so you had another gig if you wanted it.
The reason I didn't go, I basically, like, after that job, I told them, like, look, here's what I got going on. I started this tree service and I really want to try and make it work. And if I go to South Carolina, like I just won't be home. And R&E was really cool with it. They were like, oh, that's sweet. You always get a job here. So like, if you want to hire back on, like, I was like, look, I know this fall and winter is going to slow down for sure. So like, you know, would I be able to come back? And they were like, yeah, like we like you. So do your thing. Give us a call in the fall.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
And so that's what I did. And I did that because the simulation engineer at UTech, he was 45 maybe. He had a side business painting classic cars, right?
Yep.
Made really good money doing it. And had his own shop at his house. It was like, I saw pictures of him, super nice. And I asked him, I was like, why didn't you ever, like he'd been doing it for a long time. And I asked him why he never just like quit his job and did that full time if he liked it so much. He's like, well, I just never made the decision to do it. And he's like, then I got married, then I had kids, and then like I needed a stable job. So here I am. And I was like, oh, like whatever. Like at least you work at like a pretty solid company. And he's like, yeah, but you know what you need to do is if that's what you want to do, you need to quit and go do it. Like you're a good engineer. The owner of this company wants to hire you. Like I'm sure it's the same everywhere else, you know, that you've gone. So
good reputation.
Like, and if R&E will hire you back, you need to go try. Like just go do it. I was like, he's like, what's the worst that'll happen? You go get another weld engineering job? It's like, yeah, I guess you're right. Like it's not too bad, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's when I told R&E, like, look, I'm going to try and do this. And so the rest of that summer, did a couple more tree jobs here and there, like not too many, you know, was burning through all the money in my bank account and kind of realized like, oh man, this didn't really work. Like, and in October, I was down to like my last $800. Like I had $800 in my bank account. I was like, well, I guess I got to call R&E back on Monday. And it was like a Saturday. And I got a phone call from R&E like that Saturday. They're like, hey, how's the trees going? Want to go back to South Carolina? They're asking for you again. I was like, you know what? Yeah.
yeah. You called it just the right day. I got time.
So I drove back down to South Carolina 2 days later or whenever, 3 days, Tuesday maybe is when I went down. I don't remember what day it was. But went down there and was pretty happy to just be working again, you know, like
back in the saddle,
money in.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And it was like literally doing the exact same. It was just like support for the plant. They just needed some extra guys. And they like, I was always on night shift there, you know, which was like kind of a downside to R&E is like when you're the new guy, you're pretty much always going to be on night shift. So you just have to be okay with it.
Yep.
Which I was because, you know, I was getting some pretty fat checks. So.
Yep. And you're working all the time anyway.
Yeah. Like being on the road, you know, like I'm on the road to make money, you know, so I might as well work a ton. And R&E was cool too because like we could take some pretty like it was unpaid vacations, but
if you needed
kind
time
of
off,
as much as you wanted, yeah.
You just say, hey, I'm out.
Mm-hmm. And like it was pretty easy to plan with like kind of have to like think ahead a little bit and like know that, hey, these 2 weeks coming up next month are probably going to be pretty slow because like holiday type deal and they won't care if I go home, like the customer basically. So like Gestamp's not going to care if I'm not here for a week or two.
Because they're light on production anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was pretty easy to work around and get some like big vacations. So in my first year at R&E, I went on an elk hunt and was gone for 2 weeks doing that, which was sweet because I'd always wanted to go hunting out west.
Idaho. You went to Idaho?
I went to Idaho the first time.
Okay, cool. Yep. Good deal.
that same winter, I went snowmobiling in Colorado for a couple days. Like bought a mountain sled in Michigan, and me and my older brother and one of our buddies went out there, and like that would have probably never happened if I wasn't working at R&E.
Right. When would you have the time?
Like 10 days off for that.
Yeah.
So did that, and then every single year I worked at R&E, I went elk hunting, without fail. So that was cool to just, hey, I'm taking 2 weeks, and like September I won't be here. That was like the one thing that I was like pretty non-negotiable on, and they didn't care.
Yep.
It's like, all right, whatever. But yeah, so ended up back at Gestamp again. It was kind of nice because it was like at that point I knew everyone that was an employee there, knew all the contractors there. There was a couple of contractors that like were there for the entire time. They were really good at what they did. So the one guy was, he's a controls engineer that was absolutely phenomenal and could pick up anything. Like picked up the welding, picked up like all the other processes we had going on, was really good with PLC, and ended up redoing a whole bunch of those lines because they were like the logic on them was like pretty jacked up right out of the gate. So they ended up having to rewrite a whole bunch of the PLC on all those lines.
Wow.
And him and a couple other people did it, and they did a pretty good job. And like when I went back that second time, everything was just running,
Yeah.
So, cause they had all the bugs worked out with all that. And so at that point in time, I had some tree gear, I had some climbing gear, I had a couple of saws. I took them with me because I was like, like this time around, I know I'm not going to be working as much because it's kind of more of like a normal shift schedule.
Yep.
That was basically the like night shift weld support, and wasn't working as much. Like, what were we doing? It was like every other weekend we had 3 days off. But we would work for like 7 days. So work for 7 days, work the whole weekend, work till Thursday, had Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, which was pretty cool. So I got to like go do some fun stuff, I did a couple of tree jobs down there, which was cool. Yeah. For people I knew that worked at the plant. And then what kind of kicked off like me straight up quitting and being done was I had all my stuff down there with me, like all my gear.
Yep.
And Georgia got hit with a really bad tornado. And it just coincided with my 3-day like weekend. And at that point, so I don't know how it is, like in my opinion, like welding, any of these other like trades and stuff, it's not like you don't see a whole bunch of activity on Facebook, but there's a whole bunch of like tree pages on Facebook that are super active. Like, I don't know what it is, but tree guys are really active on Facebook. And all these Facebook groups are just like so much going on every day. And I was on all of them at that point. And there's this one company that was, they were chasing storms like big time, and they were working with they had these, they're called a knuckle boom crane, and they have a grapple saw on them. So like 126 foot crane, 126 foot of reach with a saw head on it that can grab and cut, right?
Yeah.
Or you can run like straps and stuff to like pick pieces up. And I'm sure you've seen some of my videos on Facebook of us doing crane work.
Oh yeah.
Super fun. I do enjoy a crane job. So, and I had seen these guys like posting on the pages every once in a while, like, man, it'd be really cool to like work with one of those cranes one day. And I figured like, that's like a 10 years down the road type of thing. Well, they posted that they needed a ton of help. They're like, oh, this storm's crazy. Like, we need all the help we can get. And the dude posted his phone number right on Facebook. And I was like, well, I have like 3 days off. I don't care about getting paid. Like, I just want to go and see what this is all about. Like,
yeah, this is like an adventure.
Like, this dude's not even going to answer me back anyways. So I text him. I'm like, hey, like, I'm a newer climber. Like, got all the gear, got some saws. I just want to come help and see what it's about. And all he texted me back was location. It was Noonan, Georgia. That's what he texted me back. And I was like, well, okay. And I loaded my truck up and drove there.
Yeah.
Right? Drove through the night. It was like a 4-hour drive or something like that.
Yeah. Noonan's the other side of Atlanta from you. And
yep.
Yeah.
And so got there at like 7 a.m. or something like that. And I go to this address that he sent me. And this dude's there like folding up one of those cranes. I'd never seen one in real life, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. He was like, they had finished a job that night and they just left it sitting there, you know, because they probably finished it at like 2 a.m. or something ridiculous like that. Pulling a tree off a house, right? So I pull up and this dude, Charlie Diaz is his name, was folding the crane up, and he did at least 20 years in the tree industry, you know, like veteran tree climber, really good crane operator, one of the best I've ever worked with still to this day. Pull up and I'm like, hey man, I was told to meet here, and you know, like, I don't like really know what's going on. He's like, you got climbing gear and saws? And I was like, yep. He's like, well, you're working with me today. I was like, okay, this is super weird. Like, there's no like paperwork and all this stuff like that.
Where's HR?
None of it. Yeah, none of that. So it was a little bit like new to me, you know, but like tree industry is kind of like that in general.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't want to call it like unprofessional. It just works a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. Handshake kind of thing, you know?
Sort of.
Until you get screwed.
Yeah. So I followed Charlie around the rest of the day, and super long day. Like, we worked till like 2 a.m., right? But it was just pulling trees off houses, and I did my first crane pick with him, which was pretty gnarly. Which is, for people that don't know, when you like use a crane to take trees down or pull them off a house, it's called a pick, right? So like, you're picking a piece off, right? And so we were running straps for a lot of it instead of a saw head. So like, as the climber, you tie into the crane, right? And the crane picks you up, and you go up and set the straps on the piece and then cut it. And the first pick we did, luckily, like we were able to cut it from the ground because it was laid up sideways on this house, you know, like it was like 20 feet up on the house. And then like where we cut it was like cutting it like shoulder height, basically. Right. Yeah. It was like how the tree was laid out. And, we did that one. And then we did another really big tree that we pulled off a house that we did most of it with the saw head. And I was like cutting for the saw head, you know, like he was just grabbing pieces, and the tree was like, it was huge, right? Yeah. It was laid sideways. So it's like 30 feet in the air, 40 feet in the air, laying sideways. So like a lot of that, like he was just cutting with the saw head, but anything that like was kind of close to the ground, like he grabbed and I would cut it for him. Right. Now we did another one kind of like that night. And that's when we were out there super late. And that's where I met Richard Dormany for the first time. And I learned a lot from him over the course of that summer. We'll get into that a little bit though. And after that, next morning, I ended up like, I was like, hey, I have to go because I have a real job. Like, I'm actually an engineer. And they're like, what?
Yeah, I got to go to work.
Yeah. And Charlie told me, he's like, hey, I'm going to put in a good word for you because like you're a good worker, and like you're like cool to work with, and we want you back. And I was like, all right, sounds good. You know, like that's a cool opportunity. And so went back and had a conversation with this super shady guy before I got, like, he called me on the phone. He's like, hey man, Charlie doesn't really get along with too many people, and for whatever reason he liked you. I was like, okay. He's like, so we want you back. I was like, well, look, I have a full-time job, but like I'm trying to just get into the tree work, so we'll see. Like, I was planning on quitting in the spring anyways. Again, like the company that I work for now knows that, you know, and so like I'll let you know. He's like, okay, sounds good. And went back and was like, wow, that was like the coolest experience ever. Like, it was just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Felt like it was like, wow, this is what I need to do. Like, not like, oh, that would be cool to do in 10 years. Like, this is what I need to be doing now. Like, I have to do this. And so when I got back, I told R&E, like, hey, look, that was in March. I was like, at the end of April, like, I'm going home. They're like, okay, whatever. And so end of April rolled around, went home, had a few jobs at home, and then storms hit, and they actually hit in Michigan. So Southeast Michigan got hit really bad with like a couple tornadoes and stuff. And that whole storm chasing crew came up, and I worked with them for like 2 weeks up here every day. And that's where I ended up working with Richard a ton, and he was running a crane too. Like, I've never seen him climb, and I make fun of him all the time for it. But he was a good climber, you know, before he started running cranes. And he also was another guy that didn't get along with too many people, but for whatever reason, got along with me. I talk to him, you know, he lives in Florida, but I still talk to him at least once a month, you know?
Yeah.
He was a great person to have running a crane and doing all these crane jobs with, because he would just tell me like, hey, I'm going to set you up there, set a strap there, set a strap there, and like cut it here. I'm like, okay. And if I was like needed some sort of pointer or something, he'd just, hey, try like do this and it'll work. And I'm like, okay, you know. And
yeah, because you're dealing with trees that aren't straight like a telephone pole.
yeah,
they're
laying
limbs.
sideways,
Right.
like, laid up on houses and stuff.
Complicated.
Yeah. So went on a couple storms with them that summer. It was like 35 days of storm work or something like that total. I mean, there was like travel days in there too and stuff. But ended up did a storm in New Orleans. Remember the hurricane? It's Hurricane Ida, I think, was the last big one that hit.
Yep.
We were in downtown New Orleans, like waiting for that storm to hit, and it came through, and we just rode it out in downtown, like in a hotel.
And then
crazy.
Like came out afterwards with your saws running.
Chasing trees, yeah, pretty much. Didn't really do any work close to downtown though. It was all like kind of, because it went like the eye went west of New Orleans. So most of the work was like the west side of New Orleans, basically. But
yeah,
that was pretty cool. Met a guy named Leighton Perkins. Actually met him in Michigan. Worked with him like 1 or 2 days, kind of, and then worked with him a ton down there. And I'm still really good friends with him.
It's funny how you make lifelong friends, right?
Phenomenal climber, like one of the best I've ever seen actually climb. He's really good. And the way that all worked was like he had a skid steer, and so like we would run a crane crew with a skid steer crew, and so he was just running the skid steer most of the time. And he's I want to say he's like 7 or 8 years older than me or something like that. So, and him and Richard knew each other from working in California.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they had done trees in California together, and they were like best buddies, right? So I was working with them two, and like, so 2 veteran tree guys, and I'm like a first year guy basically. And what Richard told me is, he's like, yeah, out west, like we'd have the new guys, like we'd try to make them do as much as we could. Like, hey, go up and like set a rigging block in this tree. And if you're too scared to do anything else, just come down and we'll finish it. But he's like, they get up there and set rigging, and like, then we'd just be like, all right, now set the rope and cut it, you know? And I mean, there's more to it than that, but
sure.
but like, that's how you kind of get new guys into doing the stuff. And I wanted to do it all, right? So it was great to have them on the ground, like knowing what needed to happen on the ground. And they were able to tell me like what I needed to do up in the tree, you know?
Yep.
So that was pretty cool. Learned a lot from them too. Yeah, I still talk to both of them quite a bit.
Yeah. Did you make any money doing that too?
Yeah, I did.
Was it good money?
Yeah, actually, I was getting paid like $1,000 a day, which is like not bad. Like it was more than I was getting paid at R&E.
I was going to say, was it R&E money?
So R&E was cool because like everything after 58 hours was double time.
Oh, so you still made bank in that gig too, but not like this at that point.
But like it wasn't every day, and it was only like 35 days a storm total. I was one of the few people, I guess, that ended up getting paid everything.
Some people didn't get there.
Some people didn't. But the general theme with that I saw was that like people that showed up with like their own cranes and stuff, like they would rack up giant bills with this guy, and he would just not pay them.
Yeah.
You know, which like was a real bummer. Because I'm pretty good friends with just about all those people, and like to see them basically lose out on $500,000 or more, like that number was pretty like.
Yeah, and they got to pay for that equipment.
Yeah,
and the gas, and it's not like they're out there
$700,000 crane.
Yeah, they're not just out there labor.
No,
they're out
fuel. Like
you betcha.
All of that like had like employees there and stuff. And these people, like a bunch of them, either did or almost lost their businesses because of that.
Yep.
But so like back to knowing something was like kind of weird about it.
Yeah.
After that first storm in Georgia, I was like, well, like this guy's shady, but like working with all those guys, they're like they were all really cool, like great people, right?
Yeah.
I knew that I would not get that much experience doing anything else. So I was like, well, okay.
It's like going to school.
Yeah. And like found articles on this dude like doing shady stuff and not getting paid or not paying people. And I'm like, well, if I don't get paid, like I'm not going to be in a bad spot, but I will not gain this experience anywhere else. So that's like was part of my decision to like just go do it.
Took a gamble.
And ended up with enough work at home too. So we're like, I didn't go back to R&E ever again.
That was the turning point.
Yep.
Cool.
And then that winter, did a few tree jobs that winter, like stayed busy enough. And then that next spring, so spring of 2022 is when Forrest, my younger brother, came on with me full time. And it was pretty much off to the races after that. Like we bought a chipper and we bought a skid steer. We had a dump trailer, right? And like me and him for 2022 and 2023 was just me and him doing trees.
Yeah.
Like, you know, doing it kind of the hard way a little bit, I guess. But like
as you grow and figure out
Yeah,
what you
which
need next.
I took a huge risk buying the skid steer because it was pretty expensive.
Yeah,
And like
they're
when
not
I
cheap.
bought it, we had one job on the schedule. That was it. We had 1 day of work. I was like, well, like we've been renting a mini skid steer all the time, you know, and like, sure, we don't have any work now, but like maybe we'll get some more, you know?
Yep.
And at that point, we were kind of like dabbling in the marketing with like Google and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then just stayed busy enough after that.
Yeah. But you were puckered up, weren't you? When you're like,
yeah.
oh God, do I buy this or not?
Mm-hmm.
And
that was one of the biggest dice rolls I've ever made.
Yep. because that practical guy in the back that loves that spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to take that much risk. But you had to get where you're at. I think that's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
But it's like, I saw, and back to the whole Facebook and trees thing, I saw this one comment one time. This dude was like, well, when I started my tree service, I was living in a camper and like had nothing. He's like, so I took a bunch of big risks because I figured, what's the worst case scenario? I'll be back in a camper. Like, who cares?
Right.
And that's like, that was like me, like, well, I'm living in my brother's basement. Like, what's the worst that can happen?
Right.
I lose this business and
I go get another weld engineer job.
Call R&E.
Yep. You invested a ton of money. You had wood chippers, and
here we are. I have a couple employees now, and we pretty like full tree service, I guess, like a bucket truck and all that. And
so you got a lot of capabilities. What do you guys call yourselves?
It's Terrace Shaped Tree Company.
Okay.
The name of our company.
And you're technically out of what area?
Like Livingston County area, basically. Like we service like Heartland, Fenton, Brighton area. Like Novi, we go into some places like that.
Kind of the northwest suburb and adjacent areas there.
Yeah. So Grand Blanc area.
Yep.
Yeah, we do pretty much everything tree related, you know, like we do like, you know, what most people think of a tree service, like removals and trimming. We do like planting also. We do plant health care, so like tree health basically. Getting into quite a bit more of that. That's kind of more like the direction we're going is more like tree preservation, basically. So I'm a certified arborist now, and Forrest is also a certified arborist too, which in the tree world, I guess you could, like, the equivalent in the welding world would basically be a CWI, I think. And then the pretty much the only thing I can get after that is I can become a board certified master arborist, which is probably equivalent to like a PE. It's like the professional engineer thing. That's like as high as you can go as far as like certifications come for like tree health stuff.
Yeah.
I've got I've got 2 crane certifications now. I have aerial rescue and aerial lift rescue certification or certificate or whatever it is, which is it's a requirement for every tree service to have. Not many of them have it. But like if someone's climbing and gets hurt and gets stuck up there, like you got to
know how to get them down.
Have an idea. Yeah. At least have an idea on how to get them down. Cause it's like, you know, it's kind of weird actually doing it. They made us like go up and rescue guys when I was doing that class. So it's kind of interesting to do. You know?
Makes you think about things differently.
Yeah. When you're bringing somebody else down with you, that's like,
wow.
It's a weird, like, it's weird dealing with somebody that's like limp, you know? Cause they told us like, oh, just act like you're like, either like, act like if you're the one up there that's getting rescued, like act like you're just straight up limp, or like people like if somebody cuts themselves, they'll like be freaking out, you know. So we'd have to like go up,
deal with a
fake
panicking
tourniquet
person
on somebody, and then like deal with someone like flailing around on the way down type of deal. That class was like, out of all the training I've done for tree stuff, that class was like one of the best because I went out to New Jersey to do it. I went out to New Jersey to do that class at a place called New Jersey Crane Expert. They do a whole bunch of training, you know. They're a big training company. They had the New Jersey rescue team come out. It's like the state rescue team. So these guys, a bunch of firefighters and stuff like that. The one guy was like a flight nurse. So like rode in a helicopter, you know, doing like when they go pick somebody up that's out of a car crash.
Flight for life stuff.
Like, yeah, the first like person to take care of them basically. So those guys seen all sorts of stuff, and doing the aerial rescue class with them, telling us as firefighters and stuff, and they do all sorts of like high angle rope rescue, and they get like all sorts of training, telling us like, hey, we never deal with trees. And if we show up somewhere and there's a climber stuck in a tree or injured or whatever, and you're like coherent, basically, we're sending you up because you guys do this every day,
yeah,
and your gear is way different than ours.
Oh yeah.
And so like it was cool to see, like, so the people that do high angle rescue stuff, they have some really cool gear. And it's kind of like, sure, we're both running ropes and everything and all that, but their stuff's a little different than ours, you know. So for them to see our gear, like, it's like foreign to them, even though we're doing the same thing. Yeah. So it's a pretty interesting industry to be in, and like all that safety stuff, we're like, I've got first aid too, you know, and all that. Like, somebody on the crew is supposed to have first aid. We have one of the highest death rates of any industry, and our death rate is 5 times higher than all of special forces.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
Wow.
So like, part of that I think is because there's like just a lack of training in the industry in general. And when you're looking at those dudes, they get like $1 million worth of training, and we get like
on the job training.
On the job training, yeah.
Hey, you got climbing gear?
Yeah.
Right, go up there.
Yeah, that happens. But I mean, but it's a thing. Like,
yeah,
people die all the time. One of my
yeah,
one of my buddies, one of his employees got killed last year, and I watched the video of it happen, and he got, like, they were on the ground, right? And like they dumped this tree, and it was dead, and like it went through the branches of another tree, which is like, you know, that's part of it happens all the time.
It's
right?
common. You're trying to forecast,
like feeding trees, like sending trees through other trees and stuff.
Yeah, kind
of. And they're gonna brush stuff on the way down sometimes. Well, a piece broke off and got whipped back, and it was like a 4 or 5 inch piece. It looked like maybe 6.
Not huge, like, compared to the tree.
6 feet long, maybe. Came flying back, and like he turned around to run, and it hit him on the top of the helmet and like compressed his spine, and he died in the hospital a couple days later. But it like hit him so hard that it like did that, like broke a bunch of, like, did some stuff to the vertebrae in his neck, like collapsed a lung or something crazy. Like it was bad.
It did stuff you didn't think it would do.
No.
So you're in a danger. You went from welding, which is got some hazards you have to deal with, to trees, which has some hazards you have to deal with. You know, things people don't think of before they take a saw out.
We're the only industry that's allowed to do what's called negative rigging. So like our rigging point is below where the piece that you're rigging down. So like roping pieces down, right? No other industry is allowed to do it. No other industry is allowed to tie into the crane directly.
And you guys do that every day.
We do it every day. So, I mean, not every job's a crane job. It's like always different. It's it's really cool for me because like instead of dealing with 6 month long projects, we're dealing with usually it's like 1, 2, or 3 projects in a day, and they get done, right? So you see it get done.
Yes.
And it's like,
yes.
It's kind of a rewarding thing to like see your effort like happen quick. It's kind of like a ADHD brain thing or something like that. I don't know. I like it a lot.
Yeah. From somebody who works with their hands though, and I have trouble with longer term projects, I like to see what I got done that day. There's a sense of accomplishment there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you got to really stick to it and go home and tell yourself you did something.
Yeah.
Right.
Like sending a 3,000 weld piece through a line over the course of a week.
Yeah.
Like that don't work for me.
No, I hear you. So yeah, so you're happy with what you're doing. Your business is growing. You've got employees now. You're doing it the right way. You're certified in all the areas you can be. Yeah. And now what's next for you? What do you think's going to happen? What do you want to happen?
I don't know. Like, there's still like some pieces of equipment that we could use that would help us out quite a bit. We obviously, like I said before, want to grow more in the plant healthcare side of things. Like tree health.
So you're doing consulting for homeowners and trying to help them save some of their trees.
I do consultations all the time.
Yeah. So you deal with people.
Yeah. I don't do a whole lot of it anymore because I'm more of like, I like to be in the tree working. And my brother Forrest does a lot of our sales, and now he just got his arborist cert like pretty recently. So like he'll be able to do all the consulting and stuff.
And you'll be running the crew. Doing other stuff. Yeah.
It would be nice to like have another climber so I can like not always be on the crew. Cause I also really like doing all the plant healthcare stuff. We do like this thing called air spading where it's like root excavation. Because trees can get like really affected by what's happening underground, you know? And so when you do a root excavation like that, you're like, we use a compressed air gun basically. And it blows all the soil away and it doesn't damage the roots, you know, and you can see what's happening. You can do a root prune. So like, you know how you like prune a tree above ground? You can do similar stuff below ground, like pruning the roots. Cause like sometimes when trees are planted wrong, they'll get what's called girdled roots and they'll like wrap around the trunk underneath the soil and it'll like constrict the tree and that can kill it.
Yeah. Or you'll go out and pick it out and the thing never rooted into the ground. Yeah.
So we can solve issues like that very easily with the air spading is what it's called.
So it's still highly technical what you're doing. It's specialized and now you're dealing with a whole different type of science. Biology and living things and soil samples.
So one of the things that actually like helped me quite a bit too was like physics class, you know, so like college physics and like high school physics.
We don't want to admit it, but
so we deal with force vectors a lot. Like even though it's not really it's not thought about as much as it should be, I guess, or like people don't really realize it, but so when we're setting up rigging in a tree, like they grow, like especially trees that like grow up in like a big Y. If you are running your rope up and have a rigging point, like a rigging block here, and you're rigging down, you're putting force out, right? So
you could split the tree and do damage.
So like, and this is a super basic example. So like if you run your rope up to a pulley over here and then over to here, you pull the tree in and they're stronger pulling them in. And you're not putting as much of a, what's it called? Like a load moment.
That's what I was going to say, a moment load on there where it's just cantilever. And
you negate that. And you put your force vector back straight down the trunk of the tree. And so you're loading in compression instead of in
tension.
Tension or like torsion basically.
You're right.
So that's a thing that like
is engineering.
All the rigging, like I picked it up really fast because of that.
And you don't have to calculate the force at the pin. but you have to know what direction it's pulling in. Right.
Yeah. And like the other thing is we're the only industry that like we don't have rated tie-ins. Because what's the tree rated for? Don't know.
No. Right.
So that's like kind of sketchy, but you
have to make an assessment every time you go up there if you can tie in, if it's not, bunk.
Yeah. And some trees like we're not climbing.
Yeah.
Like, bucket truck or crane only.
Yep. So that's a good assessment too, is knowing.
And there's some stipulation where it's like, well, you can only tie into the crane if it's the safest way to get to the top of the tree. But like, I'll argue with my engineering degree every single time that I'd rather be tied into a rated tie-in point that's engineered for a load than a tree that's not.
Yep.
Right. So that's like something that people kind of argue about a little bit. I've seen, and it's like, that's a stupid argument because you're tying into a rated point versus non-rated.
Yeah. Having your background then helps.
Yeah. So
that's pretty cool.
That's kind of where I'm at now.
It's a roundabout way, but the cool thing is you found your way through welding, got a lot of experiences, met some really cool people.
Yeah, a lot of cool stuff.
Which kind of led you to your opportunity down south where you got to do some storm chasing on the weekends for fun.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Well, I think it's phenomenal. I really do. And I think starting your own business takes a hell of a lot of gumption and courage and maybe a little bit of blind luck.
Yeah.
I always said I'd rather be lucky than good any day, but being good helps.
Yeah.
And I think that's fantastic. So if you were going to do it all over again, or you had a youngster who was thinking about getting into welding, what would you tell them?
I mean, it's kind of easy to tell, like, the people that will do well and like enjoy doing the welding stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's so many different options in the welding industry, that you can go whatever direction you want. There's so many options. It's insane. So I think we talked about it before. Like, you can end up in like sales, or you can end up in consulting, or you can end up doing like CWI inspection, or like you can weld every day if you want.
Sure.
Some guys that are on the pipelines make really good money.
Yep. And they're outside, so if somebody didn't want to be in a plant, they still wanted to be in welding, they could go become a welding cowboy. You
can do automation, automation. That's what I did, right? And automation is crazy. And like when you get into automation, so you can go like into weld automation, and then from there, you're probably going to pick up an interest in PLC, and the controls people like do quite well too.
And once you got a brain for engineering or for automation, it makes you think differently. You look at everything at how can I automate that? How can I automate that?
That's what happened to me. Right. So how do we automate a tree removal? Or which that's part of those like knuckle boom cranes with the grapple saws. That's automation.
Yep.
So
that's what I see a lot of the processors use around here.
Drastically improves like efficiency.
Yeah, you're more efficient. It's safety. You take a lot of things out of the way.
Yeah.
Maybe some different safety considerations. But,
there is, yeah.
But it removes you from as much harm.
It does.
So technology is coming everywhere too. You're seeing technology come in. You guys were telling me that you use Bluetooth headsets all the time, so you're always talking to each other. No more of the old crane operator.
Yeah, so we have to wear helmets, right? We're required to wear helmets. So my helmet's sitting in my truck. I should have brought it in here. But like we have Bluetooth headsets that can connect like on a like they all pair up, So I can we can pair up to 12 headsets, I believe.
Oh yeah. So everybody's talking and it improves communication.
I actually helped my buddies with a job this summer. Massive tree. And they own 2 cranes, and we had to rent a bigger crane to do it. I was on the headset with 2 of them plus the crane operator, and they have a track lift. I don't know if you know what a track lift is. It's like imagine a bucket truck without the truck and on tracks. And it's pretty narrow. And like they're called like a spider lift, basically.
Yep, I've seen them for the power line guys.
Yeah,
before.
they had 100-foot tall spider lift, right? Track lift, spider lift.
Yep.
And it was too short for the tree. It was massive. It was so big.
Wow.
It was a fun one to do, though.
Wow. right.
And I was up there pretty far.
Yep.
So
selfies and videos.
Yeah.
Maybe not on that one.
Yeah.
Not on that one.
I was a little scared on that one.
You got to be good with heights, right? Comfortable with heights.
And I used to be like terrified of heights, which is crazy.
It's an exposure thing now that you do it.
When I first started climbing, like doing the rock wall stuff at Ferris, like it's like 30 something feet tall, maybe. And like you get to the top and look down and like start shaking. And I've kind of gotten over that. I'll still get like a little bit like nervous sometimes.
Till you get your legs under you.
Trees, yeah.
Which that keeps you sharp too, I guess. If you're
because I've heard from like some of the seasoned guys, if you stop being scared, something's wrong.
Yeah.
You know,
you might be taking too many risks.
Yeah.
Because you're not worried about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it you know, it's like anything. And when we used to dive, they would say, go through your dive in your head. Before you get in the water, before you do anything, you're thinking about everything you're doing.
Yeah.
To make sure your mind's right for it. Because some of those things, you know, you're dealing with big, heavy objects way off the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, some trees weigh 40,000 pounds or more.
Wow.
You know, like some of the bigger ones. So, you know, it's kind of...
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's like a die.
Yeah.
Right? That you're dealing with. So,
but yeah, so back to a new welding school.
Yeah, new welding school. What'd you tell them?
Just there's so many different options.
Yeah, it's a wide open field.
It's wide open.
Yeah.
So you can start out with like, you know, being a welder and end up as management or sales,
business owner. You got it. Any
owner.
Direction that you want to go. I think it's important. And one of the things I wonder, we didn't talk a lot about Ferris. Next time we will.
Okay.
But if
you have to put some effort in though. You can't just like, phone
it in.
Yeah. You like if as long as you're willing to try and like, kind of be a team player, I guess, and like learn to be able to work with all different types of people.
Yeah.
You'll meet all kinds of people.
Yep.
Like be good with that and like have a good attitude. Having a good attitude is bigger than almost anything else, you know?
Yep.
And be willing to learn.
Yep.
So like, cause you're gonna see something like you'll be constantly learning.
That's great advice right there. Cause we learn something new every day.
Yeah. Especially if you go somewhere like R&E, you're going to see something different constantly.
Yep.
Like you won't be in the same plant for 10 years. You will be all over. So
that's good too if you want to see the world. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I know like some people don't want to work on the road. They don't want to work night shift, but like if you're a single dude, especially single woman, you know, and you want to go see a whole bunch of different stuff, like you might not necessarily have as much fun like outside of work, but you will see a lot, you know, like inside of work. You'll do all sorts of stuff.
It's a way to get lots of experience really quick, like you're drinking through a fire hose.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And then the more you know, the more you see, the more valuable you are. People start asking for you back.
Yeah.
You know, that's a good thing. What about if you're starting a new business? What would you tell a new business owner? Somebody's thinking about starting their business.
It's tough. It's going to be harder than you think it's going to be by a long shot, like 10x.
Yep. You can't kind of think you want to do it.
No,
you got it. You got to jump in at some point. Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to like straight up quit your full-time job, you know? You just have to be willing to do weekend work or afternoons, like put in a lot of time.
Yep.
Like, cause that's what it's going to take.
Yep.
Put a lot of time, keep track of things. Right out of the gate, my mom is our business manager, I guess you would say. So right out of the gate, we were doing QuickBooks stuff and keeping track of everything.
Good.
Like all our receipts, we keep all our receipts and everything like that. invoicing, that all has to be perfect.
Yep.
So you have to be able to keep track of stuff. You have to be able to keep track of your expenses, and your like all your numbers. You like have to know them.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're going to be just guessing.
Yep. And that's not going to be a recipe for success.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
So that's big. Like it's more than just doing the work.
Yeah.
You know?
I would say the same. Welding's the easy part. I can do that all day long, but let's sit down and talk QuickBooks, right? And then things start to get more complicated because it isn't what I would consider the fun work that I got into this for.
Right.
I got into it for the arcs and the flash, and you have to do that other stuff or it won't work. That's good advice.
It's not super difficult, I guess you'd say, as long as you stay on it.
Yeah.
Or have someone that'll do it. There's a lot of people that you can like outsource that. You know, there's a lot of people that will do the business management stuff for you if you don't want to do it.
Yeah, where you can go do what you're good at.
Doing, yeah.
And then once you get big enough, maybe you hire somebody that does that for you.
In-house.
Yep. Good deal. Good deal. So welding can be a gateway to many different opportunities. As Jordan has talked about today, his career has taken him from all welding around the world and
back again.
and back again. So, and hey, if you want to have an engineer work on your property, help you with any of your arborist needs, this is the guy to call, especially in Southeast Michigan.
Yeah.
So, hey, I want to thank you for taking the time to come up and talk with us. I had a blast today hearing about all the stories, and I think we're going to have you back again.
Yeah, because I can go into depth on quite a bit of things.
Yeah, we get some more topics up here. I'm going to have you back, and we'll dive into them. So,
all right,
folks. Thanks for tuning in to the Sparks and Spatter podcast. We'll see you here next time. In the meantime, keep your hood down. Don't stare at the bright lights.